Hello, and welcome to The Gardens, located in sunny... The Gardens is one of the largest combined zoological habitat and theme parks in the world. With over 72 thrilling attractions and nearly 11,000 animals in our care, we know that every member of your family will find something incredible each time you visit. But that's just the start of your adventure. To really see what the park has to offer, I'll turn you over to our top 2 guides. Take it away, boys!
Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the weekly discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. And we're back.
We are back, and my name's Mitchell.
And my name's Coleman.
Darn tootin' it is. So, yeah, it's been a while. What's been happening?
We're gonna just explain things real quick, which is the theme of tonight's episode, and episodes from now on.
Real quick?
Real quick. Basically, we've been working on a lot of stuff. We have a lot going on, projects, work. We're busy people. Yeah.
Oh.
We're very busy people. And, you know, this podcast we do for fun. We do it because we love Animorphs, and we want to continue to do it. We both enjoy doing it, but it's hard to make it work within our lives the way we were doing it. But I think we found a way to tighten up the episodes, so that means slightly shorter episodes with still having the in-depth talk, and just get it to you quicker and have it easier in our lives. So that's what we're trying to do, a new, tighter, awesome Thoughtspeak for all of you.
That is what we're aiming for, yes. And part of the big reason for this Thoughtspeak hiatus, this drought we've been through so far, was in part due to you have been doing a lot of work on something that I've been very actively involved in as well, which is, of course, maybe some people know, I write book series of my own, and Coleman has been busting his butt with an excellent crew to deliver an awesome book trailer, which you can all check out now because it's online.
Yeah, and we'll post it to the Thoughtspeak as well, our Facebook, Twitter, probably Reddit page, all that stuff. Didn't even know what a book trailer was before we got into it, but that's a thing now. And it turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. And hopefully it sells some of Mitch's books.
Hopefully. Well, you guys can all check that out at your leisure. I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, if you dig Animorphs, maybe you'll dig the crazy stuff that I write.
But for now, we're not going to bore you with banter or talking about our busyness or any more excuses on why you've been deprived of your precious Thoughtspeak. We're going to
Point is, drought's over, and we are super excited to get into The Warning.
Which we're going to get into right now.
Now!
This section of the park houses one of the most extensive research libraries devoted to animal biology on the West Coast. Your guides will provide a thorough summary of any book that might catch your eye. Careful though, once you get them started, they'll never want to stop.
It's been so long now, I don't even remember which of us was the last one to read the back of the book.
You can lead us into this one if you want. That's fine.
I would love to do this. As we've stated, we are reading The Warning. That's the one with Jake turning into a rhino on the cover. The front quote says, "Now it'll take more than the truth to set you free." What does that mean?
It has no relevance to the book.
What relevance does that hold to this story?
Absolutely none.
I'm sure some of the fans out there are very creative and they could find a way to really tie that in. And if I sat here and thought about it long enough, maybe I could too. But anyway, here's the back of the book. Jake's made a pretty amazing discovery. It seems like there may be other people who know about the invasion. Others who know about the Yeerks. Jake finds a website devoted to the Yeerks. And Jake, the other Animorphs and Axe, aren't sure it's too good to be true. But if they try to investigate the site and it's a trap, there's no way the Yeerks won't find out who they are. If they don't check it out, they'll never know if they're the only ones fighting. Whatever Jake and the others decide to do, they've got to move quickly, because Visor 3 isn't the only one dying to meet them. Wow, you know how many times it says Jake on the back of this thing?
You know how many times it says Yeerk on the back of the thing?
Quite a few.
Yeah. Honestly, though, as far as, like, original concepts go in the series so far, that one's got me hooked a little bit, just reading the back. It's
yeah,
interesting.
well, and when this first came out, I mean, this was around the advent of the internet, and I can't give many examples, but I think that was kind of the popular thing to do at the time, was this crazy new technologies coming out, and so much could be done with it that, yeah, it found its way into a lot of stories, and Animorphs was no exception.
And I will say, just continuing to talk about the cover, great color scheme. One of the cooler looking books, like the, I don't know, kind of weird darker red, and they went for more realistic sky where it's like a sunset or something.
I'm pretty sure I have this exact same outfit Jake's wearing.
Well, that's the only thing that holds it back, is this is the most ridiculous looking mid-morph. Like that third morph down from Jake.
The one where he's still got like
he looks like such a sad, large, like middle-aged man who's disfigured.
Yep. And he's got my hairstyle, too, so that doesn't really...
I assume you based your entire teenage years hairstyle and everything else off of the cover of Animorphs books.
You know, if this were remade into a new TV show, I am fairly confident I could play Jake.
Yeah. I would also like to go a step further into the inner cover. And, again, just zero relevance to the book.
Yeah.
They're like in some outdoor wild park.
Well, it looks like it's like right there on the Serengeti or something. And there's a weird sign in the background. It's not Tobias flying overhead. It's some other bird.
Yeah, that's not even a red-tailed hawk. But, and it's clearly, you know, in the book, they're indoors, right? Like they swoop down, maybe there's an opening in the... it's more of an outside thing, but it's not a Serengeti.
Yeah, I don't know. Not a whole heck of a lot of description was given to it, but...
This is not downtown San Diego in the background. I know that for a fact.
This is not the work of somebody who read the book and was like, oh, yeah, no, I can...
We need a rhino.
I can animate that scene, don't worry.
Put a bird in the sky over him. Yeah, there we go.
Put Tobias up there. You know what he looks like, right? Yeah, Tobias. That's the
He's a bird, right?
One.
He's a velociraptor, right? Anyway, okay.
Yeah,
moving into the book itself.
I do want to get to the book itself because this is a good one. And it starts out a little bit different than most books, I think. I haven't been keeping track of this, to be honest with you. But this is one that doesn't start out with, my name is Jake.
Oh, good point.
And, you know, I wish I'd kept track of that, and I could say with some certainty whether any of the other books started with or without that line or not. But this is the first one I actually noticed it. And it instead starts with Jake talking about his online screen name for the reason that this is very 90s technobabble here with all the computer lingo.
And a much more subtle recap. It's very much woven into the beginning, talking about the internet and computers. It doesn't force feed the recap over you. Yeah.
This didn't feel like it was beating us over the head with it. It's actually pretty entertaining, I guess. Not the most, action-packed first opening chapter that we've seen from some of the other books.
At least it's not Cassie and Rachel in a science lab playing with mice.
Well, yeah, that's true. Although we did get a kind of amusing email here that says it's from Cassie, even though it's quite obviously Marco.
Yep, with their AOL equivalent dial-up modem and
the old
system.
WAA.
Mm-hmm.
Or as I call it, wah.
Yeah, and just like to point out, he says he's on a... Is he on a 32?
He's on a 32, and he's jealous
32.
of Marco's sweet 56K.
Yeah, 32K. That's... I think he says Cassie's is even lower. Hers is like 16 or something.
Cassie's on a ColecoVision.
Yeah, I had a ColecoVision.
So after some of this 90s technobabble, just on a whim, Jake kind of decides to search Yerk online and see what pops up. And
he Googled it.
Surprisingly, now this was before, he used Webcrawler. He asked Jeeves about Yerks.
Well, sir.
And quite surprisingly, he finds a website devoted to Yerks.
There's only one search result, because that's how search engines work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so yeah, when he finds this website that is just can't tell if it's real, can't tell if it's mixing knowledge of actual Yerks with just fiction.
Right. They go to... Everybody meets up at Marco's house later, and this is why, because of his sweet internet connection. Mm-hmm. And they're browsing the website, checking out things that are on there. There's various pictures of aliens, which is kind of good news for them, I guess.
And I just like
some validity to it.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that one of them looks like a Hork-Bajir, kind of. So they're thinking that could mean it's someone knowledgeable of the Yeerks. And one looks like, they say it's one of the aliens from, like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'd like to point out here, when Axe talks about, hey, this is the Na of the Skrit Na. How do I know about them, you ask? Oh, from Elfinger's Big Adventure. Have you guys seen that in stores?
Coming this fall.
Yeah, just blatant reference to the Andalite Chronicles, and I'm surprised they didn't... If this would have been online, if it were an ebook, I assume it has a link to the Amazon page for Andalite Chronicles.
Axe was like, my brother, the Andalite, who had some sort of chronicle.
Have you read his diary of the events?
Here it is. From Scholastic. Yeah, well, and besides the pictures of the aliens, they have, like, the terms and stuff on there, which adds to the validity a little bit more. And they're just basically trying to figure out why this site exists, what the purpose is, if it's run by controllers. They've got a lot of questions.
Even has a list of controllers, and most of them are bogus, but for some reason Chapman's on there. And
yeah, that adds to it.
It's just random, though.
And then I like this bit. Whenever computers, whenever the internet, whenever hacking is involved in the Animorphs universe, it's always on the convenience side, and this is no exception, where they spot that there's a chat part of the website. So Axe is like, hang on, here, I'll fix up your computer so that, nobody can trace us while we're doing this. And that's fairly believable, that's fine. And the part that I'm going to criticize comes up a little bit after this, where they actually go into the chat room, and this part of the book is really weird.
It is.
Only because of the formatting, though.
Well, I don't understand. My listeners, hearing us now, I've been on the internet since the internet started. I mean, I wasn't in, like, the, 95 net groups or anything like that, where it really started. But, I was in the early stages of AOL chat rooms and all that. I don't ever remember a character limit where people were, like, talking over each other.
Yeah, I don't know where they got that from either, to be honest with you.
Cutting off sentences.
It's like a super pre-Twitter.
Yeah. It was kind of cool seeing them mix up the format, though. I mean, that was interesting.
Yeah, it definitely surprised me when I flipped open the page, and I don't know if the listeners know what we're talking about, but it is formatted very differently. They even use a different font, which,
yeah,
whenever you see a new font in an Animorphs book, it's like, what is this for?
Yeah, it's a chat room type, back and forth, mixed in with their thoughts and dialogue.
But it is difficult to read because of the limits, sentences cut off, and then you got to keep, checking the usernames to follow the conversations. It's a little weird.
Yeah. Anyway, but the way people are talking is also interesting because about half of them actually talk like they're either former controllers or they have experience with someone who's a controller. They're giving very big red flags of knowing what they're talking about and, being against it. And then you have the other half of people who are blatantly talking out of their ass. They're kind of almost sounding like they know what controllers are, but they're giving terrible advice. They're telling people to, oh, you think someone's a controller? You should go talk to them and ask them.
Right. Suspect that person's an alien? Confront them about it.
Yeah, it'll turn out all right. So, and it's just a very weird, again, just like the website, it's a very weird mix of, lies and factual content.
Yeah, and they're all just sitting around kind of, trying to gauge who these people are, if they are controllers, if they're setting traps, they have no idea. And this is where Axe's hacking skills are not good enough because he's, for some reason, not able to get everyone's user information. But Marco has a much better idea, and he suggests breaking into the Web Access America headquarters, as if that were a possible idea.
Yeah, and it's not across the road. It's They make it sound like it's in like the middle of the country or something.
Yeah, it's far away. It's too far for them to morph birds and just fly there with demorphing and continuing the journey. It would take simply just too long. They couldn't do it in the single day that they need to. So this is their big plan, is that they're going to use the airport. And I thought that was pretty clever right off the bat.
It surprised me. More so cleverness on the author, K. Applegate. Just the fact that she's going to take us out of the city where everything happens, and that they're going to try to figure out how to sneak onto a plane. Now, this is pre-9/11, so they're able to get away with a lot at this airport that they would not normally be able to get away with.
Yeah. I don't know. The TSA hasn't started cracking down on Flymorph just yet, but
There is no TSA before 9/11.
Well, no, I know. I'm saying the TSA now doesn't crack down on Flymorph.
They really
You focused
should.
on the wrong part of the joke, Coleman.
I feel like I'm unprotected from fly terrorists.
From fly spies.
Fly spies. So they get to the airport and, they get ready to put their plan in motion. They decide to go Flymorph. For some reason, they think that's the quickest way to get around.
Again,
Sure.
I love seeing them strategize, talk, what kind of morphs we should be using, putting forethought into it. Of course, they're far enough along that they're quite the group.
Yeah, and there is some question of being able to see very well with compound eyes, and they need to do some pretty good seeing to get into a gate.
But yeah, how the heck is a fly going to make its way all the way through an airport, It just wouldn't work until
until they make a joke about following some poop, and then a lady walks by with her baby about to change a diaper. And so then they send in Jake, who loses a rock, paper, scissors match.
Right.
And he grabs the diaper and throws it in the trash can right by the gate. So that'll give them a good trail to follow to get to the right airplane.
That is an excellent start to the mission.
Yeah, it's almost very happy-go-lucky at this point. Like joking around, we gotta follow poop. This is such a fun mission.
Right, and then here's another Animorphs staple that just seems to always have to happen in a Animorphs book. The team goes to undress themselves in the bathroom and steal a stall to do some morphing, but as usual, while they're in the middle of morphing, just random guy busts open the bathroom stall because he couldn't wait, and gets the worst moment you could ever bust in on somebody morphing is mid-morph, especially during Flymorph.
Yeah, he just saw pure horror.
Oh, he's going to be ruined for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so he runs off. I mean, it's his own fault for breaking into somebody in a bathroom stall just because he had to go.
Yeah, I mean,
Who does that?
How many stalls were in that bathroom? There wasn't another one open?
It's an airport stall. There's like 20 in there.
Oh, yeah.
So
Must have been a terribly busy, even though they said it wasn't busy.
The guy's just a douchebag, is what it is. That was probably his favorite stall or something. I don't know. But anyway, so he runs off security like a little pansy, just because he saw something terrifying, horrifying, and nightmare-inducing. And so, of course, they've got to hurry it up. And in the process, it's Tobias' first time morph and fly. He doesn't really know what's going on. And while the rest of them start to head out, getting towards the, edge of the bathroom where they can leave the stalls and everything, Tobias is completely lost. He's gone. He doesn't know where he is. He says something about a lake. And they're just trying to talk him out of the bathroom.
The fly's instincts have taken him to the absolute worst place that he could go.
And we now spend the next 2 pages.
I thought that was a bold move for an Animorphs book. I mean, in The Unknown, we got a little poop humor. And we've had poop humor before, but this is kind of different. This is a little graphic,
Marco.
I would say.
Marco is at his best. He's telling him to. In Flymorph, Tobias is stuck between a bowl and someone who's sat down on top of the toilet.
Right.
And
Marco's
like, "Watch out for falling objects," and
right.
everything else. But they get Tobias out of there. It's a funny little scene. And I think it's meant to alleviate what's coming next.
Yeah,
Tension a
probably.
little bit.
And, I will say that it is still cool that we are seeing Tobias, who is still the least experienced morpher, and he's still getting carried away. And I wonder if the author almost planned that. because everybody would be losing this sense that they get every time they morph. So it makes more sense to keep one character held back a little bit from the rest. So you've still got that kind of excitement, that craziness that happens.
Yeah, and I think that's valid. I think that's some of their favorite times writing is when someone's lost to the instincts of the animal or put in a situation that's new and uncomfortable and might cause a little action scene. So.
Yeah, well, it happens basically once a book.
Yeah.
If not more.
So they actually make it onto the plane without any more hijinks, thanks to the diaper.
Yeah.
They meet up with Rachel and Cassie and get onto the plane itself, and it takes off, and they're kind of just trying to find like a place to sit, because it is kind of weird to have flies on a plane. You would swat at those. You would think that was unusual.
Yeah, and people start noticing them pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. And from there, it's, another little action beat of like dodging hands and hearing that people were like, why is there a fly on my Salisbury steak? And Marco making a joke that he was eating a Salisbury steak. And
it's good times. It's almost lighthearted until the most crazy thing that could happen in this instance does happen.
Yeah,
which is Jake just straight up gets swatted by somebody.
Yeah, and it's not like a cutesy swat. It's my thorax burst.
Yeah, well, he mentions that he's, like stuck to the ceiling and his guts are just hanging out, and, it's your typical fly swat. When you swat a fly, you don't really think too much about it, but...
Yeah, he's got like a broken leg, a busted wing, and he's split open and stuck to the ceiling by his guts.
Well, and he knows for sure that he's dying. He can feel himself dying, and this is what the Animorphs books do so well, is that they really instill in you a sense of what it's like to die through these characters.
This is like the second or third time that Jake's been in this position. Insect morph dying.
I'm surprised to see them not putting Marco through death almost.
Well, he's done it too in Shark Morph.
No, I know, but it's usually Marco.
Yeah, but the thing is, they get to him and they're trying to figure out how they can get him off, because the plane is landing right at this point once he's been swatted. Or it's not landing, but they're off the ground. There's nowhere they can go in the plane, but they collect his body. They make some joke about, and that's not a joke, but they're talking about, do we collect his guts?
Yeah, it's a great line from Marco.
We could probably talk forever about morphine with only half your body and what that's going to do, but we have a whole book devoted to that in the 30s, so
right.
We don't have to worry about that.
That'll be a good one.
But they get Jake to the bathroom, the plane's bathroom, and he barely demorphs out of just about to die state. It's pretty close.
Yeah, probably one of the closer calls from Jake. You mentioned the other time he was in cockroach morph, right?
Yeah, he got sprayed with poison.
Got poisoned.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad. This is also right up there, especially because they're, in this crowded plane. He can't just demorph right when they needed him to. But he manages to demorph, and he's fine, and he rides out the rest of the plane, because apparently nobody notices an extra passenger on a plane back in the 90s.
They're just like, oh, whatever. We picked somebody up in the air.
He got on.
And once they do get off, they have to make a scramble to buy some shoes and everything, because they all just morphed in mid-flight. So they have no clothes, nothing. They make a couple references to the fact that this is where all their allowances are going nowadays, to just buying clothes wherever they morph to.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But Jake is still really shaken up by what
right. Yeah.
happened.
When they arrive, he just nearly died, and this is what really messed him up. I think is that this was supposed to be the safe part of the mission. You know. This is like, the mission really hasn't even started yet. They're on their way to the mission, and things are already going bad.
They don't ever travel very well.
No, not unless they're in bird morph out on Cassie's woods somewhere.
Yeah.
And even then they run the risk of, running into a pack of swallows that'll make them run into a tree.
Yeah.
And then you've got amnesia to deal with.
And then you get giant tornado dust monsters and amnesia. That's that book. But anyway, so Cassie picks up on his shakenness and tries to comfort him, and Jake being Jake's like, we have a mission to do. Better get to it.
Well, it's like the almost the whole group kind of chimes in and tries to make light of the situation and just comfort Jake in general. Sort of. Not coddling him or anything, but it's a nice little scene to wrap things up. And then once the mission kind of actually gets flowing here, it's a lot more interesting. The team manages to catch a bus and stop at a Taco Bell for some reason on their way to the World Access America headquarters. Wah. And here's what I love. By complete coincidence, the team ends up joining this touring group of senior citizens that happens to be showing up at the WAA headquarters.
I hear your tone. I understand that you weren't thrilled with this coincidence. I think it's pretty common that a big headquarters like this has some kind of tour group, and they just happened to catch one that was there. Yeah,
I know, but it's my pet peeve. I have to call out coincidences, convenient coincidences. That is.
Yep, but they enter the building and get away from the tour group as quickly as possible. So just a bunch of kids
part of it anyway.
running around and get some exposition about Joe Bob. How are you pronouncing this name?
I'm saying Fenstry, but
Fenestra.
Fenester.
Fenestry. Stra.
Feeny.
Let's call him Feeny. He's Feeny for the rest of the book. Done.
Nah, I'm calling him Joe Bob. I like Joe Bob.
Joe Bob's not bad.
It reminds me of Steve Dave. You tell him, Steve Dave.
You tell him, Joe Bob.
Yeah, well, he's got his picture hung up there at the headquarters of WAH.
And Marco, it's Marco, right, who goes off about how
he's a
billionaire.
Because Marco's in love with Joe Bob. He's got to tell everybody all about him and how rich he is. And Joe Bob is the equivalent of Bill Gates. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. So after that whole little exposition scene, they get to the main command center of the headquarters, and headquarters. And the problem is, this isn't like a lot of their other missions where they're sneaking into somewhere. They're in the middle of a 9 to 5 normal working hours, daylight, middle of the day, tons of people everywhere. It's not like a night mission where they can sneak in and hack into a computer at some random observatory that makes no sense to the story. This is too difficult to go unnoticed, or to, what are you going to morph a fly or flee or something and try to hop on the letters of a keyboard?
And hack that would be awesome. Axe completely hacks the WAH HQ in Roachmore.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So they decide to go for something much more subtle. And subtle in this case means completely not subtle at all.
Wait a minute. No,
thank goodness there's no Yerks here.
Rachel does suggest that they could create a distraction, which is a pretty sound plan. I think her intention was something a little bit more violent, but as Jake quickly points out, they don't want to resort to violence because these are probably normal people. And then they go on to have one of the best debates so far about morphing human and why they shouldn't do it. And it actually brought me around to their thinking.
Do you want to go ahead and say what their thinking was?
Well, Jake, I'm going to paraphrase here, but Jake basically says that if they allow themselves to start morphing humans, they'll justify it by whatever their cause is, right? But his point is that once they start doing that, then there's no going back, and that will be similar to how the Yerks are using human bodies for their own personal gain. Once you're able to justify it for something, you can justify it for anything.
And this is, we've had plenty of talks about this on Thoughtspeak, about how, they won't morph animals that are smart, or they won't morph humans, blah, 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 and what's ethical. But this is a good point. It's the Batman approach. If Batman kills the Joker, that leads him down a path where who's he going to kill next? You break your one rule, and you'll just, it's a slippery slope.
Well, yeah, and I guess, his point being that, sure, they could morph humans to fight the Yerks, but then suddenly it turns into, well, now we've got to morph humans to, go down to the street and buy a candy bar or something.
And I like this conversation because it leads them away from morphing humans all the time, which would solve a lot of problems in the story. They could do a lot of things way easier.
Humamorphs.
And B, like you said, like going down to the store and getting a candy bar as someone else, or stealing, or committing crimes. That's a dark story when you start being able to morph other humans. The story, inevitably, the conflict that will happen will be them turning into horrible people because they can get away with anything. There's no repercussions for their actions.
You know, that is probably the biggest book that I wish we had, is one of the team becoming addicted to, like, morphing people. And just using it for their own personal gain. And the other one's being like, okay, yeah, this is great. You gotta shut this down.
And the third thing great about this conversation is the fact that it puts us at a point where they're super ethical and they're like, hey, we're not going to cross this line to just win the war. We're going to stand our ground and be moral Animorphs. And then throughout the rest of the series, they start crossing that line. And we see that, maybe not this specific line, but we see them making sacrifices to their ethics to win the war. And that's what the series turns into.
It's unfortunate because it's the only way that they're able to do it.
Yep.
Which is what sucks about war, I guess.
Anyway, so they decide to go with the distraction idea. And the distraction idea ends up them turning into their battle morphs and pretending to mop and causing a big scene.
I love this scene, too. Because it's so unexpected, and it's a great bit of comedy after, such a heavy scene with Jake's near death.
Yeah, and that allows Marco and Axe to basically just walk down and start hacking into the main servers. So
the part that I love is Rachel's in bear morph, and she's mopping or pretending to mop the floor. And there's a little piece of dialogue from two of the workers that are watching it. And one of the guys says, like, I must be going crazy or something. And the other guy says, no, I think that bear's crazy. It's carpeted up there.
Yeah.
Which is just a great little zinger.
It's great. And it works, and it shows that I think one of the most interesting things about this scene is that they're not afraid to morph animals and not worry about their own protection. Because that implies that they're not too worried about Yeerks being here, which implies the invasion really is centered around their town. It is that small.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty big assumption for them to make, too.
But I think they're right, though. I think they're correct.
But why wouldn't they want a Yeerk at the WAN HQ?
I'm not saying why wouldn't the Yeerks put someone there. I'm saying I think this somewhat confirms the fact that the invasion isn't as far along as we think it is. I think it's, right now, centered around their huge California town.
Yeah,
it hasn't branched out much further.
The Animorphs' past efforts to, destroy the Kendrona and everything have hampered the spread of the invasion as well.
It's not helping.
Yeah, that's true. There's a little tiny, minuscule kind of battle scene here, but it really kind of ends abruptly because Jake doesn't, want them to fight there, and he basically gives Cassie, who has gone with her favorite skunk morph, the permission to end the conflict with her skunk abilities.
Powers. And Mark and Axe get off scot-free. They download the information pretty quick, and they're done.
Yeah, and I love this little part here where they all meet up again, and Marco, the only thing he can say is that he learned the sad truth about his online girlfriend, who...
A 73-year-old postal worker.
Right, he's been chatting up some old dude.
That's so Marco.
That is the internet in the 90s.
That's Kay Applegate's little warning to kids to be careful who you're talking to.
Make sure you do the ASL.
Yeah, because once they say that you can't
solves
lie.
Everything.
You can't lie when somebody asks you that.
Nope.
Yep.
I never knew what that stood for, so I was always like, asshole? What's asshole?
This person wants to see my asshole.
You're right.
Anyway,
there's just one little tiny part here that wraps up their first mission, and it's with the return trip. They go back to the airport, and this time Jake is just nervous as hell. I mean, he's shuddering. He's sweating. He says when he wipes his forehead, it looks like he dipped his shirt in a mop bucket or something. So he's not doing well, and Cassie picks up on that immediately. And she tries to talk him out of it. She's like, it's okay to be afraid. It's crazy for you to do this considering you almost just died. And I think they have just an amazing conversation that really wraps up the mission. And Jake gives one of his best kind of little leader speeches here yet.
Yeah, to sum it up, he basically says, no, Cassie, I can't show that I'm afraid because everyone else is just dying for a reason to just let loose with their fear. So they look to me to be the brave one, and he's completely right. If he loses it, it gives everyone else permission to fall to that level. And as a leader, you gotta step up. You gotta be what people want to be, not what they actually are.
Yeah, it's just great stuff.
Mm-hmm. So they get home, and one of their big focuses, they know who these chat room screen names are now. They know the individuals. They know how old they are. They have little conversations about, the fact that this one is going to go talk to his father about whether he's a Yeerk or not, and it turns out that it's some 9-year-old kid. And they also find out that one of the screen names, one of the big ones, is Joe Bob himself, the creator of WAA.
He's hanging out in the Yeerk forum.
Yeah, so they boil it down to these two groups to save. They've got to figure out why Joe Bob's on there and why he is doing all this stuff. And their little side mission, they decide is a side mission, which Cassie isn't too happy about, is to save this little 9-year-old and stop him from telling his dad that he knows about the Yeerks, because that'll get him either infested or killed.
That's what Cassie wants to do, and Marco's all gung-ho about investigating Joe Bob more, and he really sort of convinces Jake to do it. I get the feeling that Jake wasn't as into that, and he even mentions that he has a bad feeling about it.
The point is, Jake goes home and he's researching Joe Bob. That's his thing to do as the leader. That's what he agrees to do as his little homework, and he's gonna research the mansion this guy lives in, how they could get in there, what kind of security they'd be facing. But he gets distracted by the fact that his family is wanting him to stay for dinner and not go to Marco and research this as a group like they were planning to. And ends up just having like this great scene with his family, all sitting around the dinner table, joking around normally. He's watching a game with his dad, pay-per-view. And it leads to what I think is the absolute best writing in any Animorphs book so far. Can you guess which scene I'm talking about, Mitch?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the one that I thought was also... This is just the best scene that we've had with Jake and his family in general, where they're just sitting around. It's totally normal. And then you've got Jake who's like looking at Tom like, I'm going to destroy you one day, Yeerk. And I will make you pay for what you've done.
I'm going to rip you out of his skull and kill you.
We've criticized before how we haven't had a whole lot of interaction with Jake's parents thus far, and this book definitely rectifies that.
And I'd like to read an excerpt of this, what I think is the best writing in any Animorphs book so far.
Excerpt me.
His mom does talk to him, and she asks if, she's like, you're awfully quiet, Jake, thinking deep thoughts. And so he smiles, and he says, I was thinking this was cool. We should all have dinner together more often. I looked at Tom. It was nice. I hope nothing ever happens to us. I hope we'll always be together. The Yeerk inside Tom's head searched Tom's memory. The Yeerk opened his memory and read it like a book. He played the strings of Tom's brain like a violinist squeezing perfect notes out of a violin. The Yeerk found the answer that Tom would have made. It aimed Tom's eyes and made Tom's face smile sardonically. It opened Tom's mouth and made Tom say the words Tom would have said if he'd been able. And it's just like that line. He then makes some joke about the tiramisu and Jake having too much liquor. But like those lines of him describing the integral process he assumes the Yeerk is going through to control his brother's thoughts is just excellent. It's great.
This book has a lot of good scenes in it.
Mm-hmm. So after that, then they go into talking about narrowing it down to who they should protect, and they focus on
we cut to the group at the edge of Cassie's Woods, one of our favorite locales.
Yeah,
in this Animorphs universe.
And that's what we discussed just now, is that they decide that Joe Bob is who they should focus on. Jake specifically decides Joe Bob is who they should focus on.
No,
and
Marco decides that. Marco kind of pushes Jake into it, in fact.
Yeah, but Jake
he's the one who suggests it.
But Jake has to make the decision. That's
that's
the entire point of the second half of the book is this decision. So,
I feel like he was talked into it.
He
wouldn't have suggested that himself.
Yeah, well, no, he was being talked into it by both Cassie and Marco. So he did make the choice. I mean, Cassie wanted him to go after the kid, and Marco wanted him to go after Joe Bob. So,
yeah, but he in my defense here, they think they're just doing like some kind of reconnaissance mission where they're just gonna, pop in, check it out, and again, they think nothing dangerous is going to happen.
That setting, he really should have listened to Cassie because that wasn't a recon mission to save this kid. That was something that's time sensitive. So really, I don't really know what made Jake make this decision other than Marco being more persuasive. I don't know.
Well, I think he was a little bit hesitant to get in to involve themselves in this random kid's, ordeal, despite Cassie wanting to do it.
Which Cassie wants to involve herself in everything. So.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of Cassie in these Jake books. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes bird morph, and they're gonna go investigate the Joe Bob mansion, which turns out to be like the biggest. I don't even know how you'd put.
They saw it. They said it looked like a college campus.
Yeah, it's just humongous, and it is completely guarded with all sorts of normal human things like 3
walls, guard dogs, towers,
guards with guns.
Yeah, it's
not Dracon blasters.
Yeah, it's quite protected. And being birds, they're like, oh, hey, well, we don't have to worry too much about that. There's an open window. We'll fly in, we'll morph, we'll take a look around.
Yeah, good idea, because Rachel, being the gung-ho one, is like, woo, me first. And she dive bombs for the window, and as soon as she hits like the window frame, there's this electrical sound, some invisible electrical barrier that she hits, and she goes missing inside the house, and Jake and everybody pulls back like, whoa, we're not going to do that.
And then all these alarms start going off. The guards are getting more frantic. Jake and the rest of them, they're thinking of like, okay, well, we still got to find a way in because Rachel's stuck in there now. But that's when Axe gets shot.
Yeah, everything goes terribly, terribly wrong with the guards shooting at him, and it's not a situation that they can even hope to win.
Yeah, and they're all like trying to pick up Axe, and there's Rottweilers on them. It's going really badly, and for the first time in all of Animorphs history, they bug out and leave people behind. They leave Axe and Rachel.
Well,
presumably,
no, this is what I really liked about it is that Jake has to give the really difficult command for everybody to leave him behind.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't like it. I love it. I'm just saying it's never happened before. They always find a way to get one of them out. Because in all the other situations that has happened in other books so far, if they didn't get the person out, they would be 100% dead immediately. And so that's what they were leaving them to right here. Is that possibility of just, we are leaving Rachel and Axe to die.
Yeah, well, at least that's what they think. And they get away safe and sound, and everybody gets to regroup on a rooftop.
It's like a Wendy's or something.
It's a Wendy's, yep. There's a lot of product placement in this book. Wendy's, Taco Bell?
I don't know if it's product placement. I don't think they were getting paid for this or anything. I think they just wanted... I think with all the pop culture references and real-life business references, I think that's more of them just trying to, A, relate to a young audience, and B, make it more real-world. Big sci-fi
they want to
story.
Be more familiar.
Yeah.
That's
right.
So
they grab some Frosties, and
and they're freaking out though. I mean, they have no idea what to do. Everyone is upset. Tobias, of course, is enraged for having left his best buddy.
Marco starts being an absolute asshole. I mean, he's angry, but he's acting like that to Tobias. Him and Tobias are about to get in a fight, and Jake is just like Marco's snapping at Jake, telling him, "You got us into this. How are you going to get us out?" Jake is saying he doesn't know what to do. He's actually losing it as a leader for one of the first times we've ever seen.
Yeah, he's speechless. He can't he can't even come up with anything until Cassie comes in and rubs his back a little.
Yeah, and he comes up with an idea and says, "How far away is the gardens?" Which that's just a badass line in the context of the series. So I was excited when he said that. And
we all knew it was coming.
Can I just say, middle of the book, not even gonna hide my satisfaction or anything. Jake books are becoming my favorite books by far. They're darker, they're more exciting, they're much more real world for some reason. Even though they're breaking into this mansion, it still just feels more grounded to me. And they're all about Jake dealing with being a leader, which I can see some people getting tired of that. I am not getting tired of that.
Not as long as they're going to keep, providing creative and original ways for them to challenge him.
Yeah, I mean, this is on par with the last Jake book in my mind so far.
Yeah, and, the book just gets better because Jake and Tobias fly out to the gardens, and Jake acquires the rhino, which I always like these garden acquiring scenes, although this one's quite rushed.
Yeah, this one's quick.
For good reason.
Yeah.
They didn't need to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on it.
No.
And, they fly immediately back to the mansion, and it's all very time sensitive here. And they just get right into it. I mean, Jake sits down, he's like, okay, I got my new morph, I'm going for it.
And I like how they don't know what it is, and he starts morphing a rhino, which is a pretty weird-looking creature when you're halfway through morph. And Mark is like, what are you morphing? And then the horn shoots out of his skull, and he's like, oh, that's what you're morphing.
No, he just goes, oh, that.
And their plan is really simple. Jake is going to go through every gate and every person and every door that's in his way in Rhinomorph. And it's a very, very good plan.
I like it a lot. He had no idea that the rhino's eyesight was so poor when he got into it, but they find a way around that by having everybody kind of navigate him around through the sky.
We get a funny joke out of it, the fact that he's lining up to get through the main door to the house, and he hits it once, and he can't get through, and he hits it again. He's like, wow, that was a hard door to get through. Cassie's like, you missed the door. That was the wall.
Right. It's like, driving a tank blind.
Yeah. And so they get inside, and they're basically going room to room trying to find Rachel and Axe in this giant mansion. That's not working
with all
out.
These guards shooting at them. And this is cool because it's not like, Hork-Bajir coming at them, Texans crawling down the halls. These are just like regular people, regular guards. And most of them are just too scared to even do anything. They all run off.
Yeah. So you got Tobias flying around, and they decide that, okay, we can't search room to room. Look for where the guards really are. If we can find the guards, we'll find the room. And Tobias finds them quick enough. It's up some stairs.
Well, and once they're inside, Jake immediately makes, Thoughtspeak contact with Axe, who has just woken up in time. And Jake, begs him to demorph just in time.
Which he would have done the same thing with Rachel, surprisingly, but she's not replying to anything. Yeah. So they find the room. Jake can't get up there because he can't get upstairs because he weighs like 3 tons. But Tobias is causing the biggest distraction of all time, just flying around this whole house and all the guards chasing him. They demorph, they go to human, and get ready to go into their battle morphs in some side room. Pretty normal procedure for them.
I'm surprised they caught a moment to relax, but everybody had run away by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is another thing that we don't often get to see in books. Somebody in morph talking to a human.
Yeah, again, they're playing it pretty fast and loose with their identities in this book.
Getting bold here.
Yeah, and Jake scares the guy off, basically by talking to him and asking the guy how much he gets paid, and then, showing him his claws.
It was pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, it was. It was cool. And finally, we lead to this climax of getting into this room where they are. And I was surprised immediately. It's talking about, there's like a green sky above, got some Yerk atmosphere going on there, and we've got a lead molten pool, which is obviously a Yerk pool.
And there stands Joe Bob.
Joe Bob, whatever his last name is.
Bob Feeney.
And in 2 cages, you got Axe, who's now full Andalite, and you got Rachel still in her bald eagle morph.
Yeah, and they're like frozen in this kind of weird.
We don't know that yet.
Oh, don't we?
Nope.
Well, they are. I can still say that. I mean, they're stuck there. They're
Spoilers!
X is like these half Andalite or something, or he might be a full Andalite by now.
I think he is. Anyway, but yeah, they're stuck in this biostasis. They're not dead, even though they look like it, but they're frozen and being trapped. So Joe Bob's sitting there, obviously a controller, but everything doesn't line up because they mention the fact that, none of your guards are controllers. Like, they were told to watch out for birds, so they know something, but Joe Bob's the only controller in this situation, which is weird because controllers get along pretty well with each other usually. Why would he be by himself?
Joe Bob steps forward and is like, "My brother must have sent you." He delivers that line for everyone to wonder, "Oh, who's that?"
Who's that?
And he goes on to deliver his, evil villain backstory monologue and basically tell him his backstory. And it's even got a little Yerk biology lesson mixed in.
Yeah, which is cool. It's more of a cultural lesson than a biology lesson.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, just any instance where we learn more about the Yerks and like what they do in their free time.
Well, I love this because it's basically the plot of Gattaca. You have. Oh
yeah, I guess so.
You have twin Yerks, and one is considered the lesser one. And he says there are twins where they actually get along really well, and they form like these power couples. But in his case, he was the lesser Yerk, so he had nothing. He was just a shadow of society and nothing important. And his brother was the big and powerful one. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking I've never read this book before. This is my first time reading this book. And I'm thinking, okay, is he Chapman's brother? Is he Tom's brother? Nope. Visitor 3 wasn't in this book, so we gotta get him in somehow.
I know, yeah.
Visitor 3's twin brother.
Yeah, well, you know what? I am happy that Visitor 3 didn't show up in this book, actually.
I know, but it's like he did because this is twin brother.
Well,
it's almost like
they shoehorned him in here.
It's almost like a campy 1950s sci-fi twist. It's like, I'm the evil twin who's more powerful.
I just imagine when he drops the bombshell revelation that he's, Visitor 3's twin brother. I imagine Joe Bob has a mustache that he twirled and looked at the camera at the same time.
I'm surprised he also doesn't have an Andalite morph. It's just got a goatee.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But yeah, so they have a lot of questions for Joe Bob, and they keep talking to him, kind of, they're not really stalling, but they can tell that he kind of is. And it's weird because both sides are just kind of figuring out what they can give the other one to get away scot-free. And through this conversation, they discover that he has beaten the Kandrona starvation limit. The 3-day wait where you have to recharge in Kandrona rays. He hasn't had Kandrona rays. He's cut off from the rest of Yerks because he's a pariah. And the reason he's a pariah is because he found that if you eat a Yerk, if you cannibalize another Yerk every 3 days, you don't have to take in Kandrona rays. You can get your sustenance through that.
Yeah, but then you're still depending on the Yerks having access to the Kandrona. So it's not that great of a workaround.
No, it's not something that's going to solve the Yerk's problem or anything. But for him, it's an incredibly screwed up, cannibalistic way to live your life.
Yeah, so do you think he eats them with his human body, right? You think?
No, I think in the Yerk body he does
How?
it. I don't know. But he has a pool. Why would he have a pool if he wasn't doing something like that?
Why would Yerks be able to eat each other when just swimming around in the pool?
I don't know.
That ever happens by accident?
Maybe they eat algae or something. But I can't see him being able to consume Kandrona through a human digestive system into his brain. That doesn't make any sense. I think he somehow does it in the pool. I don't know how.
Yeah, they really didn't go into it a whole lot other than, eating Yerks.
Yeah. So this is incredibly messed up. It makes him one of the most evil characters we've seen so far because he's a cannibal to his own people, and it's strongly, strongly, strongly implied that he's murdering the human hosts of these Yerks he's finding.
Oh, if this were, remade into a TV show, he would flat out admit that, of course, he kills them.
Yeah, and
the website's how he lures his victims in.
Yeah, that's the entire point of the website. Is he finds people, he convinces them to reveal themselves, and finds the controllers, tracks them down, and then I assume captures them and eats them.
Naturally, certain members of the team don't like this.
Specifically Cassie, who is just, this is blowing every button of hers.
Well, and it's crazy, too, because she's like, flat out like, Jake, you should kill him.
Yeah, she asked Jake to kill him, 100%. And Jake turns around, he's like, why don't you do it? And she's like, because your morph's better for it.
Yeah, right. It's a very tense situation, and when I was originally reading it, I mean, I didn't really know where it was going, and this is the only way I saw it working out anyway, is Jake just kind of settles the matter by being like, okay, you can live, but we want our friends back, and we're out of here.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it happens.
Yeah, they get out. They get Axe and Rachel. Rachel somehow demorphs on time. Feels like they've been here for like 6 hours, but she gets out okay. And they leave this terrible, horrible person to keep on killing Yeerks and humans. It's probably one of the most messed up decisions they've made so far.
It's a weird one, but
it's a huge compromise when all they've talked about in this book was not making compromises.
That is true. Well, so that's the end of that mission, and it didn't necessarily go as planned.
It didn't go well. It's not a good mission.
This is when we get another nice scene with Jake and his family, specifically his mom.
Which I mentioned earlier, but...
Yeah, and this is the one where he's sitting outside and he's looking up at the stars. And this is honestly one of the best monologues that I've read in an Animorphs book so far, where he's sitting out there and he's looking up at all these stars and he's like, they're so beautiful, but the stars are where all my problems come from.
Yeah, and then his mom comes out and says, hey, keep looking at the stars.
Yeah, and she gives him a nice little, speech on that turns out to be ironically fitting for his present situation, where she's like telling him, well, you're the best weapon you've got, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thought, and it's nice to see a book written by an adult where the adult's like, look, I'm not saying your problems aren't that serious. In fact, I'm saying your problems are worse than mine. It gets me through the day thinking that your life is harder than mine.
It takes a bizarre turn there towards the end, but I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, and right after this, Jake is kind of just thinking of everything, and he realizes that Cassie's going to do something stupid. She's not going to let this lie like how they ended it. And at first, he kind of seems like he's going to go back towards the mansion, like she might do something that way. But instead, he figures that she's going to go straight for Gump, the kid, which is just a dumb name. I'm sorry. Gump.
Well, it's his screen name.
I know, but it's just a bad screen name. But anyway, it's this little 9-year-old boy, and she catches him at school in wolf morph. I don't know how these kids aren't terrified of a full-grown wolf running around.
She looks enough like a dog to 9-year-olds.
Yeah, well, she talks to him and says she's like some magical wolf and tells him not to tell his dad. And she basically does what they've been talking about the whole book. She compromises and makes this kid terrified of his dad.
Oh, yeah, she tells him not to trust his own father.
Yeah.
And when Jake does show up, he's, too late to stop her from doing any of this. And she's telling him all this stuff. And she is heartbroken about, this terrible choice that she had to make. And it's a really tense and kind of difficult scene.
Yeah, it's very weird a way to solve that little subplot. But after this, really interestingly, Jake and her feel like they're not going to talk for a while, and they seem really messed up over the decisions that both of them made.
Yeah, they leave off on pretty bad terms.
Yeah, and we later find out that Joe Bob's mansion burned down, which Jake warned him, if you stay in the mansion, you're safe. If we find you in the real world, you're whatever happens. It's it's kind of a weak threat. But then his mansion burns down, and it's funny how the book describes it. It makes sure to tell us that Joe Bob's okay. He's safe. But one of them, either the Animorphs or maybe Visitor 3 caught up with him, it even implies that we have a faulty narrator in Jake, and that he might have done this, started a fire at this mansion. And it's not telling us. It won't tell us who did it. And I think this is great. I think this is one of the most unique things in the book so far. It's an awesome thing. I just think they didn't take it far enough. They make sure to say that he was safe. If he would have died in the burning down of his mansion, and it's possible one of the Animorphs did it, that would have fit every single theme of this book. it would have been a perfect, incredibly screwed up ending to everything this book was leading up towards.
Yeah, it would be pretty awesome.
And they could still keep the, the squeaky clean image of the book by implying that Visitor 3 did it, like they kind of already did. Like maybe Visitor 3 caught up with them. But then leave that little Inception type ending where Jake's like, or maybe I did it, but I'm not going to tell you. It would have been amazing. And it would have fit because they were all so angry and they were so messed up over how everything ended. And I think this book was really leading to that. And I think at the very end, whether it was Michael Grant K. Applegate or the publishers themselves, were like, no, you can't go that far. Burn down his mansion, sure, but he's safe. I honestly think that was a note they had to change.
Well, that would be interesting to find out. And, maybe they just wanted to end the book on a slightly more happy note, because that's basically what they do.
But think this ending, which you're about to describe, the ending where Jake and Cassie slowly rebuild their relationship, and it kind of ends with everyone having one of those quiet, normal moments, like Jake described with his family earlier, and that's an awesome ending, and would have been much more impactful had they had just had a scenario where the guy died, and then they try to go back to their normal lives. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a huge misstep, I think, for this book. And I loved every other aspect of it, but it was all leading up to that, I think, once I read that line. And then when it made sure to tell you that he was safe, I just immediately thought cop out in my mind.
Well, I didn't have a problem with it.
I only say I have a problem with it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying I had a cop out with it because I think the book strongly led to that by making sure that this Yeerk, he wasn't a normal bad guy Yeerk. He was an evil Yeerk. They were already getting you ready to have something horrible to happen to him. It's classic screenwriting 101. You make someone, kill a dog or something so that it's not as big of an impact when one of your hero characters kills him later. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any other way that book was leading up to that. With everything, the themes of the book, everything it was talking about. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my review. I'm jumping right into it.
Okay, yeah, get to it.
Wondering which roller coaster has the highest top speed, or what exhibit is our guide's favorite in the park? Just ask them. They love to share their opinions and critical analysis to help you better plan your day.
Yeah, I mean, this book was great. It's on par with the last Jake book, which I think was number 12. I gave it a 5-star because I thought it was everything an Animorphs book should be.
No, number 11, The Forgotten.
Sorry. Yeah, the one where he turns into Jaguar. But I loved everything about this book, and I thought it was right there with it until I'm losing a star on this one point, because I think it's something that the Animorph books have done before. I don't think it's outside of their comfort zone, having someone die. Maybe it's a little out of their comfort zone to imply that one of the Animorphs is a murderer, but I don't think it pulled the trigger. I think it pointed the gun and, fired a blank or something. I don't think it matched the rest of the story. And it is pretty messed up still that one of them could be responsible for burning down this guy's mansion.
Burning down the house.
But this incredibly evil character is still alive and still doing what they know he's doing. So I think it's a disservice to the story that is, by other means, pretty perfect. Pretty perfect for an Animorphs book. So
I think Joe Bob needs to make a comeback.
He might. There's a lot of books we haven't read. But so I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 Gumps.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I saw that coming. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right there on the edge. It's a very, very high 4 out of 5. But it's just not there.
I gotta say, I'm not surprised, and I'll start my review off up front with my rating. I'm right there with you, 4 out of 5 as well. 4 out of 5. Wah, HQs. I think it was just an awesome book. I mean, it's still filler, and that's why it doesn't quite get the 5-star rating from me, because this book is still technically skippable. It's still really fantastic. I mean, this set the new standard of filler for me, for the series. Just everything with Jake trying to be a leader and making all the wrong moves, it all works. It's fantastic. I mean, it really feels like, a little kid learning to become a leader. And I'm starting to wonder how many times I'm going to have to write the phrase, so-and-so manages to demorph just in time, because that's a cliche that's popping up a lot. But it's going to, and I have no problem with it. And, another thing that I thought about while reading this is a book that I would have liked to have Nate read. I think it would have been a really interesting one for somebody who's, not a fan of the series.
And I do want to stress that I honestly think this is not a good book. It's a great book. I think this is one of the better Animorphs books I've even read up to this point. And I just, everything that Jake is dealing with, what he goes through, his conversations with Cassie, and especially his conversation with his family and his inner monologues, is the best writing of the series so far. The only reason I'm dropping it to 4 is just because that the ending, overall, not just that one part of it, but overall the ending does kind of just, what's the word? It just tones down at the end. It doesn't have a strong ending. It just kind of eases out of the story instead of having some real consequences or wrap up.
Yeah, and that's what makes it ultimately feel a little bit forgettable to me. But, I had such a fun time reading it that it doesn't affect me as much, because I know we're going on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, very soon.
We've got the Oatmeal book to look forward to, I hear.
Oh my gosh, Oatmeal.
I've never read the next one, actually.
Neither have I. Dude, we're getting into tons I haven't read. And then we're getting into some dinosaur books, and then we're getting into the David trilogy, which I've read.
It's all going to be good.
Well, yeah, I think that's it for us. I think that's our review. We're kind of, like I said, we're streaming this down, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
I just do want to say one thing, that the trivia for this book there on Seropedia, remember we used to do, it's not the greatest. They don't have a whole lot in the way for this episode, but the Seropedia entry is seriously messed up. Seropedia, you need to fix this. It looks like a bunch of kindergartners got on here and tried editing this thing.
Seropedia probably hasn't been edited in quite a while.
It might be, yeah. I don't know. It could just be so outdated, but
yeah,
it's a mess. And that wraps up our Thoughtspeak episode number. Wait, I don't know what the episode number is, so I'll just say Book 16 review, episode 32.
No, it's like 18 or 19, I think. One of those.
Yeah, I think.
Anyway,
18.
Anyway, well, so let us know what you think of this new format, where we're kind of just straight into it. I think we're still having plenty of discussion and side notes and things. We're just kind of toning down the banter and 17 sections that go into the book. I think we're okay cutting some of that stuff down. So this is more manageable for us in our lives, I think.
I think we will continue to have fun, and everyone who listens to us will also have fun.
Yes, and that's
my goal. We're having a good time here, and we're talking about some Animorphs. Can't go wrong.
So come back next week where we discuss
number 17, The Underground.
Oh, yes. I am looking forward to that one for very particular reasons, which I'll get into next episode. Okay. Ominous. Ooh.
Yeah, ominous. Ooh.
But, yeah, so check out our Facebook, our Twitter, all of these things for, like we said, Mitch's book series, which we have a new book trailer for. You can kind of see what we do behind the scenes in our normal lives, what our, possible, professions could be in your eyes. I don't know what you pictured we do, but this is what we do. So
the book is called Devil Ash Days, by the way.
Yeah, and the book trailer is called Devil Ash Days Book Trailer. So, so check those out. Let us know what you think. Always looking for those iTunes reviews. We've gotten like 3 since we've been in this hiatus that were all really good reviews. So thank you for that.
Oh, we have? I didn't even check them.
Yeah, I've been checking them, and we've been still been getting really good reviews. So I'm glad you guys like the show, and that we got some nice messages of people wondering where we were. So hopefully we can be more consistent now that we can streamline this episode down and have just a faster process all around. That'll help us get episodes out quicker too.
Yep.
So.
Yep. It's all good things, people. Really.
Yep. So that's it. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Facebook. Like us. Send us iTunes reviews.
Come chat with us on Reddit.
Yes.
r/Animorphs.
We're always on Reddit, and we love those emails too at thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com. You can always hit us up there. And our Twitter handle is Morphcast, @Morphcast. So All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. We hope you keep listening. Hopefully we haven't lost anybody in this little hiatus period, but we're going to keep going strong and see if we can get through this series.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so, all right, well, that's it for us tonight. I'm Coleman.
And I'm Mitchell. Peace out, y'all.
On behalf of everyone here at the Gardens, we hope you've enjoyed your stay and welcome you to come and see us again soon. Or, as they say on the Serengeti, tafadhali mtu kupata jambo hili nje ya kichwa yangu.